Hi everyone, my name is Madan Mohan Rao, Research Director at Your Story. Over the years, we have been bringing to you some of the most inspiring and path-breaking SMB stories. Cash Karo, one of India's largest cashback and coupon websites, is one such story. Founded by Swati and Rohan Bhargava in 2013, the company has since gone on to introduce several new products, including a price comparison service and Earn Karo, a social commerce cashback app. To tell us more about how the company cracked this cashback code, we have with us co-founder Swati Bhargava. A graduate of the London School of Economics, Swati started her career with Goldman Sachs in London before co-founding Pouring Pounds, a UK-based cashback company. In 2013, Swati, along with Rohan, launched Cash Karo in Gurgaon. Welcome aboard, Swati.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be
Why
back.
don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about Cash Karo? How does this concept work? What problem did you spot, and how it's going right now? Swati?
This is absolutely one of the most favorite topics of mine and stories as well. So just to give you a quick background, I grew up in Ambala. It's a small town in the north, and then I got a scholarship to study in Singapore for my 11th and 12th, and then a scholarship to study at the London School of Economics. I worked after that at Goldman Sachs in London for 5 years, did investment banking, and that's when after that when I met my husband Rohan, we both wanted to do a business, and we were always on the sort of lookout for a good idea, and we came across this concept of cashback in the UK. There were cashback sites, and we thought this idea is one which should actually do really well in India. So while we started in the UK in 2013, we expanded to India, launched Cashkaro. And Cashkaro is basically a cashback app. So if you shop online on Amazon, Myntra, Ajio, any online site, and you go there from Cashkaro, you get extra cashback on your purchase. And this is given by us because we are getting commission from these retailers for sending them traffic and sales, and we're giving you cashback from that. And this is real cash. You get it back in your account, as money in your bank account, or you take gift vouchers as well of Amazon or Flipkart. So our business is entirely sort of driven by e-commerce, right? So I think when you ask me about how it's going, obviously in COVID, when COVID struck, in the month of April when lockdown started, we were just like, now what, right? Because for the month of April, e-commerce also was shut in India, even though after that it took off really well. But at that time, I think everybody was caught off guard. There were so many supply challenges, deliveries were not happening, there were containment zones, right? And then suddenly just everything seemed to kind of stand still. And we were actually in the middle of our Series B fundraise. We had already it was almost done, but the money was not in the bank account yet. So it was also like a precarious situation because we were thinking, okay, now what happens? Although thankfully everything went fine and the round came through. But April required us to diversify and do different things.
That's a good story there, Swati. I didn't know there was a husband-wife story at the back of this also.
Oh,
And that
it's
also is, and there's also a great resilience story. We all remember the painful lockdown phase one, phase two, unlock, and so on. But
yeah.
you've come through pretty well. You just mentioned a while ago that you've diversified quite a bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kinds of diversification you have? How is it impacting your revenues? What are some of your future plans with new products, Swati?
Yeah, so actually, why I started saying Kashkaro kind of mirrors Indian e-commerce is because actually in 2020, we have had our biggest year yet. So what happened in April was not necessarily symbolic of the rest of the year. April was when we were caught off guard, and we thought, okay, now it's time to not only do e-commerce, but do other things as well, because e-commerce was paused for a while. So we went into education. We tied up with Coursera, Byju's, Vedantu, lots of education sites that you could go via Kashkaro, buy education courses and get cashback on that as well. And there was a phase when everybody was sort of like at home, and the thing to do was to take up a course and do something where you could improve yourself. So in those April, May times, we saw these categories like really boom on Kashkaro. Maybe it grew like almost 1000% or something, because they were almost non-existent before that. So it's more kind of relative in that sense. But then June onwards, we saw Indian e-commerce really open up, and the growth of Indian e-commerce even started because people were still hesitant to go out and shop, until it was really necessary. And we saw a lot more traffic coming in from tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, where people were again not really going as often to the bigger store or the bigger mall, but they were all adopting to online shopping. So I think Indian e-commerce actually I mean, I don't want to use the word benefited, but at the same time, it did do well actually in this last, 1 year or so. We've had a lot of new online shoppers. The categories have diversified. So all of that had a positive impact on Cashkaro itself, and we are set to basically close this financial year almost 100% up over last year.
Thanks, Swati. That's a good takeaway for our audience out there, which is take a look at the big trends and see if we can ride some of those trends. You mentioned some of the trends last year, such as education, e-commerce, and so on. We
Yeah.
also had a very big festive season towards the end of the year. We
Yeah.
had Dasara, Diwali, and of course Christmas, New Year's, and so on. How
Yeah.
did the festival season work out for you? What kind of new kinds of revenues did it generate for you? New ideas, new offerings, Swati?
Um, when we were entering the festive season, initially there were some questions in August, September. People were wondering that this boom that came in Indian e-commerce, will it ride through the festive season? Are people going to continue coming back? But when the sales started around Big Billion Day and Amazon's Great Indian Festival, all in October, it was very clear that this is going to be a good festive sale. There was so much pent up demand, and I think the fact that people spent more time at houses and they also, I mean, in their homes, it kind of made them open to upgrading certain things in their house. So people did buy ACs and TVs, and we were all not traveling as much, not going out as much, not partying as much. Obviously, saving a little bit of money there as well. So putting it into things that mean more for longer run in some sense. So we saw a good festive season, and month on month we were up almost 250% on most categories. Mobiles, electronics, of course, these always see a lot of growth. This time we also saw loungewear as a category do really well, because a lot of people, they feel like, dude, I've been living in these track pants for like 2 months now, so I need to change. So that sort of stuff. Running shoes, of course, these kind of jackets are like not selling as much right now, because you're not going to office so much. But I think it's the casual wear, the fashion, a lot of stuff in beauty, skincare, health, supplements, immunity boosters. I mean, these kind of words, they always do well. So we saw all this in the festive season. The sales were pretty good. And it wasn't only Amazon, Flipkart, I have to say, because every year it's them who drive everything. And of course, they're the largest in India, and what do you expect? But we also had like Myntra, Ajio, Man Company, Beardo, Mama Earth, lots of new D2C brands also who came into the picture, and they did really well. So in fact, when I look at our growth over the last year, it's not only driven by Amazon, Flipkart, it's also driven by lots of new brands, and even people like OnePlus, Samsung, who are directly selling from their sites as well.
Thanks, Swati. It's encouraging to hear that in these different categories, demand was picking up. You mentioned different categories of products which are picking up. What about the geography of demand? A lot of online players have huge demand in the big cities. What's
Yeah.
the scenario like for the smaller towns and cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities? What's happening over there? Can you share with us some insights, Swati?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there is a very strong tier two coming up, which is almost becoming tier one. So if I leave aside the, 4 or 5 metros in India, the Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, like 4 or 5 big metros, if I leave them, there is a whole range of, next line cities that have come up. At least on Kashkoro, we see a lot of traffic from them, whether it's Jaipur, Patna, Lucknow, and Kochi, Ahmedabad. So from all over. And then now when we look at the split, tier one actually accounts to about 50-55% of our traffic, but almost 45% now is coming from non-tier one, non-metro. And, interestingly, like we've even tried vernacular advertisements, and they do well. They do well. In fact, sometimes they do even better than an English ad. And while our product is all English, so we even debated that, okay, if people see a Tamil ad and they land on a product that is English, will that journey still be fine? But we realized that it's okay. Like people figure out once they get on the app, but at least when you do a vernacular push at the start, they understand that what's happening and it helps them.
That's a very good tip right there again for our audience, Swati,
Yeah.
that we can mix in English with Indian languages and so on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about data? One of the big trends of last year, of course, was digital, the drive towards companies going digital. Now, as an online only player, that plays directly to your advantages. So,
Yeah.
how are you using the data advantage? What are you getting in terms of insights, analytics from data for your everyday operations? Swati?
Well, the biggest insight that we get is that on Kashkaro we can basically see that the customers are exiting to which site. So let's say if you come to Kashkaro and you go to Mintra, we know that you are sort of interested in fashion. So it allows us to therefore understand what people like and have some kind of categorization of our users on Kashkaro, and then we can always cross sell and upsell to them as well. Like if you like fashion, you are today shopping only on Mintra, but then if we get other brands who are in fashion, we could always offer you more variety there as well. So looking at behavior, offering personalized offers or personalized deals with respect to your own interest, that is what we use data most for. And it is something that, of course, it improves conversion, right? Because then you're getting something that you care for. And the other thing is that we are actually very, very data centric at Kashkaro. So everybody is sort of trained to use Power BI, trained to use Power Query. You could be a content writer and you will still be encouraged to take training of Power Query so that you can see how are your blogs ranking on different words, and then can you optimize your blogs accordingly? Can you change that? So we have we're launching basically a version of Kashkaro University where everybody goes through Excel, advanced Excel, Power Query, Power BI, lots of stuff. Because we find that data is like at the heart of marketing, right? So you need to know what you're selling, how, and how is it working. So we do lots of experiments on the marketing side. And of course, we obsess a lot on our CAC as well, our cost of customer acquisition. What is that? What is it on different channels? And then do lots of A/B tests on creatives. So yeah, everything runs on data.
Yeah, great. Okay, very good insights again for our audience on how to connect this data to business outcomes.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about the diversity in this marketplace. Can you tell us a little bit about the size of the marketplace? How big is this coupon and cashback marketplace? Who are some of the competitors in this space? How do you differentiate from them? Where are you in this space, Swati?
Well, I think fortunately we are leading this space to some extent. I think we also have a first mover advantage because when we moved from UK to India, there were like barely other cashback sites there, and then we were the first to raise our angel round of funding. It was $750,000. Then we raised our Series A round of funding from Kalari Capital. Then Mr. Tata came on board as an investor. Then in 2020 we closed our Series B round of funding. So I think given that we are the most funded player in this sector, it allows us to do things that can enable faster growth. So that's why if you go online, like you will see ads of Kashkaro on YouTube, on Hotstar, on lots of OTT players. You will see aggressive remarketing. There'll be a lot more that therefore we can do on that front to grow the brand. We have a large customer relations team, a large operations team. It improves experience for people. We get the best deals as well. So all of this combined basically makes the user experience on Kashkaro good. So that's why people, if they try Kashkaro, then they don't move away. So for us, our focus is not as much on competition, but it is just to like how do we keep growing the pie and how do we keep sort of educating more and more customers that there is such an easy way to save money online.
Great. Swati, you mentioned growth a few times. Can you tell us a bit more about what growth means? Is it more products, more customers, more cities, more partners, or all of the above? What does scale look like for you in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Well, I think all the things you said, one needs to do all of that to grow. But to me, the outcome of that growth should obviously reflect in revenues of the company. So the commissions that we earn from our different partners, that is what we call as revenue. And the sales that we drive to them, that is the GMV. So now we are doing close to 4,000 crores of sales that we drive to our partners annually, which is a good number. And I think over the next couple of years, we are aiming to hit that 1,000 crore mark.
Wow, that's a very impressive number, right there, Swati. Tell us a little bit about some of the learnings so far in your journey. You've been in this space for 5, 6 years at least. You've had another run with startups in when you were in the UK. What have been some of the 3 to 5 learnings you've had as a founder?
Well, maybe I can share, not just for this space, but generally as well. But I'll just quickly address something about this space. I just want to say that this space is tougher than it looks. And I think maybe every entrepreneur will say that about their space, because when we all start our businesses from the outside, it feels like, it's easy, just make a website and then everybody wants to save money. Why won't people use it? Of course, they'll use it and then it's good, right? But nothing is as simple. It just needs a lot of perseverance, a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work. So when we started in India, we had to actually explain to every retailer partner, like, what is the value prop? Why should they work with us to set up the tracking technologies with them, the systems, validation, reports? There is so much, because when you shop at Amazon via Cashkaro, for example, there is so much that goes in the back end. Like, we need to get the report from Amazon. Then after some time, we need to know if you've returned the product or not. If not, your product is in what category, how much commission should we get? So there's like a whole back end which is built. So I think my first learning is that it is harder than it looks, and it's easy to start a site, but it's not as easy to grow it. So only get into the space if you really are in it for the long run, and you have a way of sort of raising capital, or you have capital already with you, because it is going to need a fair amount of brand awareness to get people to try the product, and more importantly, to keep coming back to it. So, just remember that. Second, I think if you are thinking of entering any kind of business, then there are certain things that you need to look at, right? Is the market big enough? What are the unit metrics that you think you are going to get into that market? What is your team going to be like, right? So need to think about all these three things very, very carefully. Which brings me to number 3, that if you do want to do a business in any field, the most important thing that you can do is surround yourself with really smart people and be able to hire a very good team. Like, even today, when people ask me, what are you doing with your money? I'm like, I'm hiring the best team possible, right? Because I think that is like, if you, like they say, if you have a big dream, then the more important your team, because you just can't do it alone. So I am like a big believer in hiring people well, really, really taking care of them, trying to have amazing retention going, and building a really vibrant work culture so that people just enjoy their work and they're happy at Cashkaro. And I think we've managed to create that. So that is like, hands down, what I think is most important. And that's why I also think that one of my learnings has really been my own evolution from being, somebody who had an idea, to then having a team and being their manager, to then actually gradually learning how to become a leader. Because all these are actually different steps and they require you to be a different person. So now I feel that, okay, as a leader, my job is to inspire, it is to motivate, it is to hire the right talent so that they can go out and do the right things. So right now in like lockdown, when lockdown started, when work from home started in mid-March, for the first couple of months, first month or so, we were not doing any morning meetings. We were just like, whatever, we'll see how we get on. But then we realized that there was a need to actually connect every morning. Otherwise, that sync was not there. People didn't know when the work day started, when it's ended, all of that. So now what I do, fast forward to like a few months, is that we started a 9:30 a.m. morning meeting, video call with everybody, and I host something called the CK Morning Show. So like, you're asking me questions like this, there is something that every day I have a different guest on CK Morning Show who is actually one of our team members. And we get to know them. We really ask them about like their growing up memories, their struggle of success, experiences. Like, we just really get to know them in that 15-minute slot. And everybody feels so happy that they are on the hot seat today. So normally people who get interviewed are, a different type. And then somebody's always thinking, okay, today somebody, like I am the one on the hot seat. So when people get appreciated like that, and we get together, we celebrate work anniversaries, birthdays, everything in the morning. So I think our work culture actually has evolved so much in this work from home period that I will now figure, like, we'll have to think of much more what to do when we even go back to office. So yeah, those are some of my learnings.
Swati, those are very good learnings again. From 2016, when Ratan Tata's investment in your company made headlines, all the way till today, when you raised more than $10 million, you've come a long way. So how does Cashkaro plan to use all these proceeds and prepare for the next funding round? Isn't the market facing a bit of a cash crunch at the moment? What does it look like for you right now, Swati?
Well, honestly, I don't think that there's any cash crunch in the market if the business has good fundamentals. I think that there are lots of investors, even though there might be slight, problem raising money from China, for example, but still there are lots of other, investors that have opened up from the US, from West, from Southeast Asia as well. So money is available. It just depends on, plans of usage, what are the unit metrics, do investors believe in the idea, all of that. But I think if that's there, I don't feel like it'll be a problem for us to raise the next round. We're also like thrifty spenders, I have to say, because we just focus on ROI a lot, and even our monthly burns are never more than $100,000. It's always lesser. So, a 10 million will also last us a long time, but that's not the idea. The idea is, like you said, what's the money for? It is actually to accelerate our growth and to, do a lot more brand awareness for Cash Karo so that it really becomes the household name that we're looking it to become. Having said that, we don't believe in spending a lot of money where we cannot measure ROI. So I don't see us doing codings, for example, and I don't see us doing TV ads, but I do see us being all over on the internet. And that's what you will see. What we will also use the money for is to grow our two new ventures that we've gone into. One is a brand called Earn Karo, which is a social cashback app. And what Earnkaro allows you to do is to basically share deals from Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Jio, lots of different sites with your WhatsApp groups, with Telegram, anywhere on the internet. And if anybody buys from your link, you earn money. So you earn that profit. And so we see a lot of housewives, students, people who want to work from home, they want an additional income. They're using Earnkaro to share deals with their network of friends and family. And they're earning a lot of money for themselves. We also find influencers using Earnkaro. So let's say if I'm an influencer on Instagram and I'm like, hey, I got this scarf from Myntra, and if you want to buy it, you can click on my link. Normally, I would just give my Myntra link, but now I will go to Earnkaro, convert that Myntra link into my Earnkaro link and give it to you. You will still go shop on Myntra. You won't know, but I will get commission. So that is the power of, I mean, we are basically enabling people to monetize their recommendations, and that is seeing great traction. So Earnkaro is there, and then we've also gone into assisted e-commerce. So we have Cash Karo stores. We have about 1,000 Cash Karo stores already in smaller cities like in Ropar, in Jabalpur, in different parts of India, where a Kirana shop will actually place orders for walk-in customers, and they actually keep the cash back. Right, so the walk-in customer gets access to online product because they don't know how to shop online, and the Kirana store is happy to place that order because they will actually get to earn extra money because they get to keep that cash back. So Cash Karo is now going into, so when we started off, it was all about cash back. Then we added coupons and price comparison. So we started serving the customer who was discovering and figuring out what to buy, where to buy, and we would give them the deal and also the suggestion on where they could buy from. Then we went into Earnkaro, which allows us to further open up the funnel and address the shoppers who know how to shop online, but they don't know what to buy. So they want to rely on recommendations. And then assisted e-commerce opens up the funnel further, saying there are people who've heard of online shopping that don't even know how to buy, but they can go to someone who will place that order for them. So I think these are like the areas that we want to continue investing in with our new fundraise. And also, like I said, I'm all about team and hiring the best people. So we are hiring very aggressively. When we started work from home, we were 120 people. We are almost 200 right now. So all this growth has happened during this time, and we will continue getting really good people on board.
Thanks, Swati. That's a very nice progression that you explained to us on the sequence of products that you have. Now, obviously, all of this is coming with a certain cost. You mentioned you've got more people now, you've got to invest in data security, technology, and so on. So, as a founder, how do you balance this, find this balance between investing for growth and actually getting revenue from this growth? Where's that balance? How do you find it?
I think for me, that balance comes by actually remembering, by actually minutely studying every month's MIS and looking at where we are spending money and not forgetting that this is real money that is being spent. It is very easy sometimes when you have, raised a big round to just say, do this, do this, do this also. But we don't act like that. Like we treat companies' money as our money to the extent that we would care for it, and not to, of course, use it. But I mean, we would care for it as much, right? So therefore, But there are certain areas where I don't think one should compromise and one should invest. Technology is one of them, security is one of them, data security is, and hiring is also. So for these, I feel like these are the things that if you don't have them right, they will make your foundation not stable, and then it's not worth it. You need your foundation to be very, very stable, and these things allow you to do that. If I'm concerned about cost, I would cut down on the branding part of it.
Thanks, Swati. You've covered a lot of ground today. Would you like to share with us maybe a few tips, some three pieces of gyan for the audience? You've shared some experiences, you shared some of your learnings, you shared some of the milestones in your journey. So can you end with maybe three tips for the founders in our audience on how to be a good entrepreneur and how to succeed in these uncertain times? Swati?
Okay. Well, I think my first tip always is that one should never assume the answer to be no. Always ask that question. And my favorite stories for these are like, when I applied for the Singapore scholarship, I was, a small girl in Ambala, never gone abroad. Nobody's ever gone abroad. What are the chances I'll be one of those 25 people all over India? But I did not give up, right? I did apply for it. I mean, when we had the meeting with Mr. Tata, I remember sitting across him and when I had entered the room, they told me Mr. Tata is sitting here having his lunch and you can project there, right? You can stand there near the projector and do your presentation. And I remember thinking, if I'm going to do that, he's sitting here, there'll be no eye contact. He won't know us. Why will he like us? So I asked Mr. Tata, so do you mind if I had not used the deck and I just sit across from you and we have a chat? And he said, sure, right? So I said, I have 15 minutes with you. I can do what I want, right? So he's like, yeah. But if I had not asked that question, I don't think he would have invested because we wouldn't have connected as individuals, I'll just be like a girl doing a presentation. So I think my first tip always is to always take that shot, take the leap, don't be afraid. There are lots of people who actually, when they think of starting up, they are afraid of failure. And I'm not saying that failure is okay and it's easy and why not. Yes, it's okay, but it's not easy. I understand that completely. But I would just encourage you to think about, like, why are you so afraid to fail? What will happen? You will only be richer with that experience. I'm also not one who will always encourage you to go to a startup. I feel like it's a lot of work and it takes much more than you can see. So please think about it. Be fully convinced. But if you are fully convinced, then don't be afraid. It's all right. Because if it doesn't work, you will be much more employable having done a startup and having shown that, there is hustle in you than otherwise. Like we have an entrepreneur in residence program that we're starting at Cashguru, where we actually want ex-entrepreneurs to come and work with us because we feel like there is so much, that they can contribute. So all of this is part of my first tip. The second tip is that I think that you need to find a way to I wouldn't say be an eternal optimist. That's not who I am either. But I think that you need to find a way to recharge your battery every morning, because as a leader, if you have a charged battery, then only you can go and charge everybody else who comes in contact with you. And don't forget that as an entrepreneur, evolving into that leader is also part of your job, because if you don't do it, your team will not perform as well and your vision will be like half met only. So find a way. For me, that way is basically to have a morning routine. I do pranayama meditation in the morning, and I feel that really sets me up so that when I go at 9:30, I know that like, okay, I'm okay to be the like the smile that you want to see in the morning, because everybody wants that. And if I don't do it, I don't know who else will, right? So as an entrepreneur, I think sometimes you have to adapt and put yourself out there. And my number 3 tip would be to visualize. Learn how to visualize. Spend that time in the morning when you are sitting to actually visualizing how you want your day to go. How do you want this month to be like? How will it feel when you get that investment? How will it feel when you become like a topper on Your Story website or something? I don't know. Whatever is it that makes you happy, whatever is your goal, emotionally engage with it, feel it. Then only it comes into your life. So yeah, those would probably be my tips.
Thanks so much, Swati. You've given us so much of a wealth of insights today, both from the professional and the personal sides. Thanks for the personal story about the interaction with Mr. Ratan Tata, a very nice backstory of how this whole investment thing works. Thanks so much for all your insights today, for me and for all the audience On behalf of all the audience, I think some key takeaways for us are the three T's: technology, traction, and trust. So
Yes.
use technology, definitely make sure you get traction before you launch something else and win the trust of the customer, the partners, and the employees.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Swati. I wish you a very good week ahead and for your whole team, a fantastic year, a fantastic decade ahead. Thank you
Thank
all so much. And
you.
on behalf of your story, thanks to all of you in the audience as well. Thanks.